And we are back, family. We are back. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We about to get it in today. Oh man, y'all see who's here? Before I introduce my guest, we got to get to a couple of commercials. I want y'all to get comfortable. Hit that like button, get you something to eat, something to drink, whatever you got to do to get comfortable. Tell your friends and family. Rod Hayes is live. I'm gonna bring the brother on in 1 minute. Let's get this commercial. From Cam Bot and myself, Holy Ghost 3, the album coming soon. All right, be right back, family.
Started out with nothing. Now I got a whole lot of something. Breaking through the roof. Willy Wonka when he pressed the button. When I do a money ritual, all of a sudden money started coming. Then I cut the Holy Ghost. I still be rhyming even when I'm mumbling. You repeat my name 3 times. While you staring in the mirror, bottle will appear. Like poof, I came from out of thin air. To me the gun is like a magic wand. I make a problem disappear. I would nigga tape out his mouth. Just to turn up to veneer. I can do magic, I can do magic. 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 When I open up my mouth, I can move masses. Black magic on the beat, turn it to a classic. I'ma take the money out the bank, then I'ma put it in the mattress. So many niggas got.
All right. Shout out to Cambada. Hey, without further ado, I want to welcome back to Black Magic 363, my brother Rod Hayes. Welcome back, Rod Hayes.
Peace, brother Rich. Before we get started, I want to make mention of something. You remember you did a show with Sister Lions last week, I think it was, or earlier this week. Erica.
Erin Lyons, yeah.
You know, you asked her a trick question that most of the fake diet woke people would have failed that question miserably. But you asked her about diet. And she said, eat intuitively. Right? That's a trick question. Because only the ones who really know what they talking about going to tell you to eat intuitively.
Right. Then, yeah. She said, don't follow
that's one of the questions that you ask somebody that's so simple, but the answer proves their position, and that's being in the position of right, telling the truth, right? Because most people, they take sides with diet the same way they take sides with religion, with politics, because all of these was used as tools to divide us. Even when we start coming out of the slumber, you will see it was the vegan versus the non-vegan. It's the American versus the African American. Right? Every time we wake up, they use whatever we waking up in to pit us against each other again. And we fall for it. Right? So when I was listening, I heard you answer that question. I started laughing. I said, this is going to show it right here. This is going to show everybody if she the real deal or not. And she aced it.
Indeed. Yeah, shout out to Erin Lyons. Great interview. If you haven't seen it, I advise you to go take a look at it.
Yeah, that was fire.
Yeah.
It was straight fire.
Got to get you on one day with her. That'll be a dope show, you and her together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do something. When they be channeling, it's like I can read the streamer. Like, I don't channel like women. I read women that channel. And so I can tell you what she's talking about on current events while she's getting her message. I say, oh, she's talking about this. But from like going back after the fact, anybody could do that. I do it live on the spot and no prep.
Dope, man. Hey, Ross, so we miss you, my brother. You haven't been, or you took a break from the whole YouTube thing. A very interesting conversation tonight. We often hear you use the term Conjure Wars, and I know you're gonna go in, but I would like, for us to set, the context about exactly what a Conjure War is. When a person hear Conjure War, it may go over their head. They may think, are you specifically talking about like a voodoo magic type of thing, a cult? Is this like an occult war that you're talking about? What exactly you mean by Conjure Wars, my brother?
Every secret society perform some form of what's known as high magic.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we are breaking out of the conjure of the interim government, right? So it's two conjures, three conjures. We breaking three conjures to break the hold of three city states.
Mm-hmm.
The war conjure was the Queen's magician. I think his name was John D.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He gave her a conjure that gave her charge to military of anybody who was using blood rights to create a construct to keep us trapped mentally, right? So John D and the Queen in Europe did that conjure. They brought us the Bible. The Bible was a conjure called religion. Religion, if you trace the root to the word, it means to bind down to something. You use amen, which means conceal the God within. Every time you use amen, that's part of that Bible's contract. The only way out is to use the Bible as a contract, or read it as a contract, read it as a star map, and read it as a riddle, because it's going to walk you through how to break the conjure spell that is tied to the 1492 arrival of Columbus. They got cities over here with ancient Bible names. None of that was named, none of that before 1492. Okay. The Al-Maghrib, which is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, secondary conjure contract under the George Washington Challenge. This is a blood contract to put the ones that came over as Moors with fezzes in a competition of knowledge and erudition with the ones wearing the feathers. The parameters of that conjure was that anybody that's one of the chiefs on the land, the first one to break free from the conjure is the one that's supposed to tell everybody, break free from the conjure, this is what it is. The hard part is our people didn't remember that we was under a conjure war. So when we start reminding them of Big Mama, we all got Big Mama examples that jars our memory. So when I came knocking Big Mama's drum, that's the little drummer boy trying to become the drum major to lead the band, so you can see what everybody is telling you, a piece of the puzzle, but they can't see the whole thing because we wasn't supposed to. So the Conjure War is all of these sorcerers called priests. They do high magic. Warlocks do high magic, but warlock is not the person. Warlock is a condition that the people are in during the Conjure War, where they're not allowed to access their wealth to deplete the natural resources of the land. And if you look, America has not traded its own oil pumped over here in Mexico and Texas and Arizona, etc. They haven't been trading in that oil because it's in a warlock, meaning it's held in abeyance until somebody remember the parameters of the contract. And this is the constitutional contract written in the blood of Crispus Attucks. That's why they got to always tell you he the first one to die in the so-called American Revolution, because they went behind our back after the the loyalists set up the Constitution to keep the British at bay, but the dirty Moors, or the ones who came over here to replace us, they went behind and wrote the blood oath in the contract to keep us bound to their constitutional agreement, because it's written that the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. So when we talk about a conjure war, it's all of these masters in the secret societies. Now, I got to make them close that stuff. The Haitian Revolutionary Conjure closed. The Broken Mirror Conjure to keep the matriarchs broken up closed. All of these, it's major conjures. Then you got people still right now trying to conjure stuff at the close of an age. And every priest know that when you try to conjure at the close of an age, you reap all of the negative energy from that conjure. This is sorcery at its finest. It's absolute sorcery. It's a conjure. It's voodoo. Well, voodoo is a bad terminology because they told us it was, but voodoo is actually nature science. And that's the only way you're going to see your way out of here. That's why they kept telling us voodoo was evil, to keep us from going back to our ancestral ways.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I talk about, the conjure war.
What's the difference between voodoo and hoodoo? Because you talk about the
that's denominational.
Listen, okay.
It's like being the difference between the Baptist and the Pentecostal, or Sunni and the Shia. It's denominational. Even when you say Santeria, they use different ways to express the organic culture in the enemy face, because he won't stop you from passing these keys down to the next generation. And this is what takes us to Dr. Clark.
Right.
He's a historian. He read history from angle of different writers around the world. And in the course of writing that history, he give us a position or an understanding of what we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rod, you said voodoo is nature science. I want to just to ask you about nature and what's going on with nature in this country right now. You know, you really do a good job representing this country in terms of telling us that this is our shit, when a lot of us, you know, look overseas for a homeland. And what do you think about the wildfires, the hurricanes hitting Cali? This country's getting tore the fuck up by nature.
We ain't the only one. We ain't the only ones.
Are we supposed to step in and stop, like do some meditation and try to stop the weather? Or are we supposed to let it just continue to do what it do? Like, how does this work in terms of
the weather is driven by the emotions of the matriarchs. And they call it when the elephant's swaying, it causes earthquakes. This is the sway of the matriarch. It's an old earth dance. When they got earthbenders, firebenders, waterbenders, airbenders, etherbenders, just like that movie Avatar.
Yeah.
Right. What we're seeing now is all of this is not natural. A lot of it is to create chaos, to keep us distracted from all of the government. That's about what it is. It's a lot of them where they trying to hold on to their last little sips of power, and they trying to cause as much confusion on the way out as to who's working for the good and who's working for the bad, or who's working for the right and the wrong. Because when you boil this down, this is a kind of, meaning that when you come into the physical realm, everything is how the mind adjusts to that, or how the reality adjusts to the mind. The more minds become aware that the game of the gods is a fifth dimensional galactic chess game, and they use people on the earth to play the game, and then the so-called gods take the form of humans to be blind to what's going on, to see if they can figure out the solution to the game. They call it the keys to freedom.
I need you to explain a little bit about this fifth dimensional chess game between the gods. What are we talking about here? Like, where's this taking place at? Because we're projecting. Yeah.
The game is taking place all around you. The problem is because we've been so externally oriented, we can't see it. We go back to the Matrix when Morpheus was telling Neo that the world is the deception that's been pulled down over his eyes. That's the Matrix.
Yeah.
right? So right now we in a holographic mind matrix. A holograph mean all parts is the same as the whole.
The whole. Right.
Right. So
Right.
we're trying to get to event horizon off of 100 monkey effect. Each one teach one. We all gonna reach some.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask nobody shit. Go out and put your hands on the earth and ask her where you belong. And if you don't belong here, every circumstance in your life gonna lead you where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna align just like that because you have to tune into the earth for the earth to tell you where to be at. This is the same as birds flying south for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
We tread the land and we end up. I had to be in the right hand of the Great Mother, which is Michigan, right? The left hand salute is over the right hand. They call it the Upper Peninsula, right? So I had to be here in the right hand of the Mother Earth in order to be able to assimilate an energy frequency that's coming in on solar rays. So it's the symbol at the Joe Louis of the statue holding the sun in its hand. That's the symbol of the power of Michigan.
Right. Right.
Right. But the sun, fire can't burn the sun. Right. That's the saying. The fire can't burn the sun because it's composed of fire.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's like a fire burning itself. Can't happen. It can't be too hot for itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's the same, all parts being part of the whole. Any one part, microcosm of the macrocosm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is your Renaissance man painting by Leonardo da Vinci. You see, you have the man's arm in 3 stages. Some of them have 2, some got 4, depending on what. All of that is different ways of looking at the galactic clock. In European culture, it's called the Grand Man. In our culture, it's called Tawaret, the Great Mother. So they flipped our culture over and gave us patriarchy to confuse us. Right? So the patriarchal agenda is a conquest agenda and it's a warring agenda. That's part of the game. Right? Toy soldiers. Pawns in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what we look at, the elders is telling us what they see, but they don't know what they're looking at. They tell us what they see, but they don't know what they're looking at when they telling us. We got to put enough for the elders' communications together in order to paint a picture of the elephant that they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They call that raising the matriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
They all got to give you a piece. That's why the Marines, they say the POWs, some gave all gave some. Everybody in this game, whether they want to be or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most of us kicking and screaming, but we don't know that half of us came here just to kick and scream because we don't got nothing to kick and scream about in truth. Mm-hmm. It's all an illusion of the mind called misery. It's the chapter we in, Noble Drew Ali. Right? We in the chapter of misery because we are strong enough to endure the pain at the bottom. So we square off against the enemy as pawns, but we got to rise to the level of greatness in whatever we do. This is what they say, let your light shine in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when your 2 eyes are one, the whole body is filled with light, and the light is the love of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you bringing back, you turn into what starts out as a war story in the game of the gods on the chessboard ends up closing out as a love story.
Mm.
And then every story of the war story has turned into a love story, and that kills all opposition to greatness.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest love of all, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Learning to love yourself, the greatest love. They told you. They was telling you in the music because that's a blues note, blue house knot off of a Mississippi River backwood knocking. This is how they use, this is where blues singers come from. They ain't just come out the South and start singing the blues to the public because it was just something they wanted to do. They was trying to get money because there wasn't no money in it when they started it.
Mm-hmm.
And they still ain't paying the artists. That's the sharecropper agreement reenactment. So we'll know how our ancestors lost the land through sharecropper agreements through a crooked government. And they got meticulous records on it. They told us what they did. It's not no secret. They caught our elders up in sharecropper agreements, and then they destroyed product. So now they can't grow nothing this season. They got to double up on the loan next year, and on the third year they seize it for non-payment. They've been doing that since they've been here. Burning up the farms, burning up the record halls, trying to conceal the dirt. But you got people in the families that's always been record keepers. So they can go back 200 years in their direct family back to their land. Ain't none of this a secret to us, but because of the Conjure War we in, and we don't understand the nature of it, is ignorance. Right? Bobby Hemmett tell us, Bobby Hemmett said, look, out of all of the melanated people of the world, there's something special about the ones from this land. Right? We the ones who are the creative men that love the women so passionately that we generate masculine forms of art.
Explain that. What do you mean? What do you mean?
The masculine forms of art is the martial arts. Okay. And then they get this spiritual energy that's extracted from that. Right? But the men do it in order to have a positive outlet for the rage of the masculine. If you can control the outlet, you can control the self. All that stuff is scripted. All them professional sports is scripted. But you know when it ain't? When you play in Little League. It's not scripted. Because you're trying to learn the game. And what else they teach you in the same age as Little League? Board games. These is giving you the rules to how to play the game called life, which takes you to a plutarchy, right? Which is a total domination of all in existence. Right? That's the final conclusion of the game of the gods. Right? So they tell you all of these examples to go by, but they don't never tell you what they mean. Right? Then they get you caught up in moralism. Right? That don't got nothing to do with us. We want to be good because it's the nature of those who come into the physical body. But those who wish to experience pain sometimes go bad because the pain drives them in the wrong direction. That's called taking the left-hand path. But how far are you going to go down the wrong path before you realize this ain't for me? Some people get in too deep. Right. So this is the parameters of this Conjure War.
You know, Rod, you mentioned the sister Erin Lyons earlier, and we was talking about Lemuria. I'm interested in knowing. I've talked extensively with you in the past about Atlantis, but I don't think we've mentioned Lemuria and Mu. I believe that's the same thing. What's your thoughts on Lemuria and its connection to America? We've talked about Atlantis, but I believe Blavatsky said Lemuria was the third root race. Atlantis was the fourth. So Lemuria came before Atlantis. We talk about Atlantis, but people don't talk about Lemuria as much as they give Atlantis love. So what's your thoughts on Lemuria?
Well, they shifting away from Atlantis now and going to Tartaria. Right? Mu is a city. Atlantis is an empire. Mu is one of the first concentric cities that the matriarchs made, right? And when they decided to scale the project up, it evolved into what became Atlantis.
Where was
Atlantis? Is the city of Mu. It was on the island of Saint. right? But when they tell you Atlantis, the capital of Atlantis flew away. It didn't sink, right? When they telling you it sunk, it went the other direction. When they tell you that the Noah's Ark floated on the water, that's not what the books say. But nobody don't pay it no attention. They just go right over it. They say that Noah's craft was taken up into the sky, right? And most people is not going to ever see that. But it's not going to make sense unless you realize, how can New Jerusalem be coming back if it ain't never been here? Right? Which is also a hijacked terminology to mislead us from what they're talking about. When they call Jerusalem the city of peace, we talking about the capital city of Atlantis, which was a jumper. It was called a jumper ship, right? We didn't been through so many, everything you can think of has been true at some time or another on Earth. You can't think of nothing that never happened. It all happened. And it probably didn't happen exactly like people tell it, but the general outline of the story is still consistent with the historical record of the planet, because we went through this cycles and cycles on top of cycles. This is nothing new. Right? So we go through the cycles, and then when the cycle gets so bad, somebody got to clean it up. It got to be cleaned up at the close of every age.
Why did this capital move? Why did it sink?
It just the shifting of the land masses. But Atlantis flew away because of war. The capital of Atlantis flew away because of war. Musak because over time it wasn't functional, because it was already at sea level. So when the sea level shifted, it just consumed it. You know it today as Bimini Road. Is the pathway to where Mu used to be. It's called the Bimini Road. But it had, every time we did this, we had satellite cities. That's why you see pyramids all over the world. But the pyramids started in the Americas. It's a purpose form that we're not going to get into, other than what people think. But when they start reactivating, it started to make sense because it pulls the hologram down. This is what don't nobody want. It's called lifting the veil. The veil between worlds is the realization that this shit is a game. We probably on the moon playing it here. You understand epigenetics, then you understand why Elijah Muhammad called us radioheads. We being projected into these bodies from somewhere else.
Right.
It's hard to tell where you being projected from while you in the body. But as soon as you get outside the body, you're like, God damn, man, I messed up again on the video game.
Yeah.
I was almost to the champions. I was almost to the championship level.
Just like that, huh?
I was finna save the princess from the dragon in Mario.
Wow, like that, huh? Wow.
Yeah, it's but now you got to remember, if you're an eternal being, Malachi said this in Man from Planet Risk, you have to do something to occupy yourself for eternity. If you go to India, they have historical records with whole cycles cataloged, thousands and thousands of different, what they call great year cycles, right? The record is always here, but sometimes we scatter the record out for a Cannonball Run. You know what Cannonball Run is?
Yeah.
That movie?
Yeah.
Scavenger hunt. Hansel and Gretel pick up the breadcrumbs, the water washed them away, but the energy's still there. Right? So you put down a different type of breadcrumb that don't dissolve in the rain. Right? It's an energy field. And none of this stuff new to us. We did this before. Being did in so many different ways that now we acting like we haven't done it before because the particular types of conjures being used to strip the memory. Right? Like you want to play that Dr. Clark video so I can show some of what I'm talking about?
Yeah, let me give me 1 second, y'all.
So Dr. Clark was a good friend to what's my man from Africa? Dr. Ben.
Okay. You want me to play now?
Yeah, play it. You got no volume on it.
No volume?
Mm-mm.
Shit. Oh shit. Let me see.
Do you see the headline on that? Where you say slavery was a war on your culture?
Can you hear it now, Rob?
Worship.
Yep. Can you start it from the beginning?
He didn't have to build jails. His building jails was redundant
How do you?
because he already had you in one.
Just let it play.
It was a war on our culture. It was a war on the culture of all the non-European people of the whole world. And that the most cultured people in the world were told they had no culture and also had no God that was worth worshiping. So the European not only gave you a new psyche, a new mentality, new clothes to wear, a new God to worship, then he didn't have to build jails. His building jails was redundant because he already had you in one. That slavery was a war on our culture.
You hear him?
Yeah, that's it, Rob. Yeah.
So this is the war he talking about. Do you hear? So he said there was a war on all of the indigenous cultures of the world. So this is why when you hear me say when they attacked us, they had to attack Africa. You can't let one brother stand and don't attack the other brother, or else you're gonna have to worry about your backside. So the Berlin Conference created the name Africa when they divided up the continent for conquest. This is all strategic. And the instrumental agents behind it look like us, but they was in amnesia too. So even if we don't like them, they have to educate themselves out of the amnesia in order to know how to close the conjure. They couldn't win because they couldn't remember how to close the conjure. So it was inevitable that they would lose because they now have to call on the same person the tribe's got to call on.
Who's them? Who are you
to come and explain okay, so it's feathers versus fezzes. The Moors who went into amnesia, all of their fezzes is in the George Washington Memorial. It's a little section of fezzes, right? And then all of the chiefs, the feather wearing chiefs of the land. We didn't walk around wearing feathers every day. That's ceremonial garb for ceremonial purposes, right? So they want to conceal the fact that the chiefs was already here fighting this war in the blind, just like they was. So now they have to put the information out in the public and reach out for the same person the chiefs got to reach out for. That's what was going on. It's a conjure war. It's a war of education. It's a war of erudition. Study yourself to show thyself approved. This is what it's all about. The making of a man, the great arcana, the great work, the building of solid man, the soul of man in order to inhabit the temple. This is what it's all about.
And so who
all of the secret societies involved.
Who put the feathers under the conjure now?
They did.
They put themselves under the conjure.
Yeah, we had both sides got to have amnesia.
Okay.
But in our amnesia, we got to outstudy each other to win. If you get caught in the dogma, you can't win the war.
Right.
If you follow if you follow your moral compass, follow what's true to your heart, you can't lose the war. Right? So wake up one. Right? So I'm the one that they woke up to wake the rest of us up. This is the wake up call.
So what gods?
So all of these secret societies in it. What was the question, Rich?
In terms of the fifth dimension, this chess game that's being played in the fifth dimension,
Mm-hmm.
what gods are working in the favor of the feathers, and what gods are working in the favor of the feathers?
Okay, while we was in amnesia, none of them.
None of them?
No, we was left to our own devices to show ourselves worthy to let them relax. We had to prove it. You say you can go in there while everybody got amnesia, remember who you is, and then tell the rest of them who they is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know who came over here. It's not a secret. Ain't none of it secret. That's the whole secret. It's in the public, but it's in your face behind your back. They play it in the movies. They write it in the novels, put it in magazines, tell it to you in the music. Everybody tell you just a little piece, though, because everybody can't see the collective. When you see from what is the purpose of everything you looking at? Everything got a purpose. Ain't nothing haphazard. Mm-hmm. Everything from your cell phone to the tree outside was meticulously crafted by somebody, somewhere at some point. The flora and fauna of the planet is drawn from the catalog called the Voynich manuscript, and that's why they can't translate it, because the language ain't Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But it's like a Sears catalog to populate the Earth with new flora and fauna to create a paradise.
Mm.
Right? So when you're looking at all of these ancient texts, you realize that all of this stuff is constructs of the mind that we go through in cycles of trying different things in order to not be bored for all eternity.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, Rod, in the movies, that shit is like a curse, being an eternal being. That shit is miserable. I think the vampires, or whoever these people are in the movies, they be wanting to die, Rod. They be like, oh, I'm still here. So, I mean,
death is an illusion. They know death is an illusion, though. Death is an illusion. It's only real in the game. When you're not in physical form, death ain't real.
No, I get that, but do you think that living for eternity is probably one of the things that Source or Big Mama or whoever this entity is one of the things that makes it most saddest? The fact that it lives for eternity? Like, that's forever. What the fuck are you gonna do forever?
Yeah. So what you're gonna do forever is come up with new cycles, with new ideas, and then strip them all back down and start all over. It's just like a kid with a block of Lego set. He's gonna take his Legos and he's gonna build something, show it off for a little while, then he's gonna tear it down and he's gonna build something else. That's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Tear it down and rebuild it. Tear it down and rebuild it. All of these fear-mongering tactics they using is funny to me because it's like a parody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a tragic drama comedy.
Mm-hmm.
right? And they doing it to slow down the perception of the ones in the game to make time drag out, right? Time is only defined by event to event in the mind. That's why we need clocks. You try to put everything on a schedule. That's military regimentation, right? It goes back to the Oscars. Who was Oscar? Right? And why was it so hard for us to get an Oscar? If Oscar looked like us, why was it so hard for us to get one of his trophies? Because it had nothing to do with us. It had something to do with those who needed to develop the cultures and the arts. That's why we didn't get no Grammys. That had nothing to do with us. We was juking in the juke joints. We didn't need no fucking awards. You monitoring something. What is you monitoring? You monitoring the assimilation of the one blood. One of those other videos I sent you of Dr. Clark talk about the one blood doctrine, right? To get you past the divide and conquer mechanism of racism. We don't want to let that go because we want to be trauma bonded to somebody with just as much trauma as us that don't look like us. See, we don't remember, like, the worst of the races is the poor white trash. They the ones that hate us the most. You know why? Because they the ones down here with us at the bottom. Right? And they told them we the reason they at the bottom. Of course they gonna be pissed off at us. They fell for it just like we fell for that KKK black hand under the KKK. We grand deception. David Copperfield made the airplane disappear, but we know it was just an illusion. No, it was just, it wasn't real, but he made it look real. How does it look legitimate? Regimented roads.
Rod, you breaking up bad,
regimented living quarters. I don't know Rod, what that is.
Can you go out and come back in?
Well, yeah.
Okay. You get a brother a second. Yeah, his connection was getting bad. He's coming back in right now. Give him a second, y'all. What's good with y'all, family? He's coming. He'll be back in a second. Make sure you hit that like button, and everybody who's watching, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We coming hard this year. It's a 7-year. If you like content like this, make sure you subscribe so you can get notified for future shows, family. Yeah, Rod. Okay.
How you hear me, Rich?
Yeah, you sound fine now. You good to go?
Okay, so here he is, just a little nappy head, raisin head boy out of Michigan, gonna grow up and tell everybody what he see. You don't gotta believe me, but I'm gonna show you some receipts. When you get the receipts, don't argue with me. Deal with the receipt. We have a record of us before Columbus came. You got to remember, this is a 500-plus-year-old war. Started in 1492 with the arrival of Christopher Columbus and his brother and his son. Navigated by Pietro del Negro, and they came in on 3 ships. Right? That's a conjure in and of itself. The only way to overthrow the conjure of the 3 ships is to put 3 kings walking on the land. That's the counter on the chessboard. So the 3 kings walking on the land, all 3 of them got to have the blood and the right. So I got to find them. They got to talk to me telepathically. I got to figure out what they saying. And when we get to this part, this is when we start what we call Windtalking. It's a certain level of development as a priest where they call you a prophet, but you're not really a prophet. You hear shit. You're hearing the voice of elders. That's not in the physical. That's the realm of the ancestors guiding you in the physical to make sure you get the job done like they told you. Right? All this is sorcery. It's all sorcery.
So you saying you got to find the three kings of the land now? That's what you saying?
I already did it.
Have you communicated with them telepathically or like over the phone, or like have you talked to them?
They know what's going on. Look, the reversal. This is how Cuba won the revolution. They used the reversal conjure with Camilo Cienfuegos, Fidel Castro, and Che Guevara. Camilo is the one they didn't want us to know about because we would have put the conjure together to counter just like Cuba did, and then we would have been able to throw the oppressor that was on us. It's the same conjure. It's the same counter moves. It's just a microcosm of the bigger game, and the game is for Earth. It's the same with the sisters that they did. They had to call the bookman from Jamaica like we had to call Garvey. When they called the bookman from Jamaica, they sent to New Orleans to get the recipe, and he put together Tucson and barbecue with the sisters' permission to use the Three Kings conjure in Haiti to conquer the French, and it worked. It's just the counter moves to what they did when they came, how they came, and what they came for. Knowing that they was to establish admiralty water jurisdiction on the land because they have to declare this a crash site. When they talk about black people, they talking about the clans who was what we call stealth priests. They was represented by totem animals in black. The Black Leopard is the Black Panther. The Black Panther Party originated in Mississippi, contrary to popular opinion. They came from the Black Panther Brigade in World War II, and they was the ones who had to go see what was going on in Europe to read the signs in Europe to come back and tell us what they was doing over there because they gonna see the statues. And we find that they doing the same thing over here. Babylonian blood magic, Babylonian money magic, Babylonian sex magic. Divide and conquer is the most effective tool for conquering anybody. And all of these mechanisms has been put in play to keep us from ever unifying to overthrow the force, the beast. So the war on our culture was to tell us that it doesn't exist.
Right.
And expect us to believe it in 200 years once we wake up.
So we in 2023 now, Rob. What do you see now that you've contacted the Three Kings? What do you see by the year? Everybody's talking about by 2030. So what do you see by 2030?
You remember when I say we gonna have Mardi Gras coast to coast?
You told me that before, yeah.
Trump announced the national celebration for the 250-year Jubilee. That's a code, by the way. It's the not Jubilee. It's the 250-year independence celebration, which means after 250 years, we finally break free. But he already announced it, and for all of the technology is going to be at the next World Fair. He also announced that too. It's already in the works. It's already being done. So we got a whole lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time. We just got to see the event horizon.
Right. Wow. I want to take some questions from the family. We about to approach the hour mark. Give me some questions in the chat. We're gonna get some questions from y'all. We talking about these Conjure Wars. Rod breaking this thing down, the fifth dimensional chess game that's being played between the gods and is being projected in this dimension that we know as Earth. So this is it. This is quite interesting. But give me some good questions in the chat. Before y'all give me questions, let me ask you another question, Rod. Is there any connection between the solar flares, which is fire? When you think of solar and flare, that fire, I guess that would what would that be? An unseen fire or something like that? I don't know. But is there any connection between the solar flares and all these wildfire fires that we see down here? No connection at all.
The solar flares is not causing the wildfires. That's being set by humans.
For what purpose?
They fighting a war. So a lot of people don't know, but they find deep state actual military bases in the wood. And instead of going in there and causing a lot of casualties on our side, they just set a fire and trap them in there. They came to give us hell, so the general said, give them the hell they came to give us, so they set their ass on fire. It's a Chinese a military base, was I think it was like 20 stories underground on the Canadian-Mexican border that they blew up back in, I think, 2020 or 2021. Right. They had more than one of those bases. And then you have those that's in the deep state that's already told in advance at what time to do what calamity on their way out because they have to go. So they want to cause as much chaos, and they have billions of dollars to play with technology. So they do a lot of the wildfire.
Yeah, let me get to one of these questions, a couple of these questions, Rod. I asked you this actually before we came on live. Candace wants to know, what about the hurricane going on in California?
So if you Google the Earth core stop and reverse, that's the grid shift of the planet. North is south, south is north, east is west, west is east, but we can't tell because of the way that it transpired. So the hurricanes are starting in a different location than they normally do. If you flip the pole back the other way, it would be coming from Africa, but from the direction it's coming from Mexico. So this is because of the shift. And if you look at human resonance, the frequency is changing. And all it is to Atlas Shrug is what it's called. It's when a frequency from the solar flares hitting the core of the Earth, going through a particular place in the so-called universe, is supposed to activate frequencies that get rid of everything that doesn't belong. And this is where we signal the close of the age. This is how you get rid of the parasites. Anything that can't sync with the mitochondria of the Earth will be forced to shut it off because it's not from prime source.
All right, let's get to another question. Somebody says, what about solar flares upgraded individuals? Is it activating junk DNA?
The junk DNA is time to activate at this particular time because of the shifting of the poles, and the solar flares combined causes an effect in the human organism and in other animals too. Y'all gonna be seeing animals that we thought was extinct popping up out of nowhere, and animals that you thought was plentiful, they're gonna be hard to find. But the most important animals is to sustain the bee.
All right. Let's get to another question. Fifth Dimension wants to know, so do we or do we not close the Conjure?
They are closed. We just right now going through what's called the turnaround time. And the turnaround time is contingent on the size of the conjure. The bigger the conjure, the longer the turnaround time, meaning the longer it is for all of the mechanisms to switch direction.
How long do you think that turnaround time might be?
I don't know. This was some big shit. This affects the whole world. It goes back to the Bang Dong Conference when the tribes originally didn't know what was going on. But after we got enough people inside of the secret societies to get the secrets in the public, we was able to put together this plan to recover Earth and everybody working together. So a lot of people don't know, but this is not a spur of the moment time in our history. This is like a calculated series of events taking place from everything you seeing around you. These young chiefs, like Sabir Bay, Phase 1, B-Dale, 19 Keys, Yaki Awaken, them. This is not an accident. This is on purpose. You seeing them out there telling you from the way they see the problem, they ready to remedy it. No matter how they see it, they all trying to come to a consensus on how to remedy the problem. But all of them don't understand the nature of the conjure that we was under to keep us ignorant.
Give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Just fix that. All right. Let's get to this next. Is that why they are trying to block the sun?
No, they're not trying to block the sun. They're trying to confuse you to the iron oxide dust cloud that's starting to seep into the earth from galactic events converging. That's what they're trying to stop you from seeing.
Say that again. What cloud is this? Iron oxide? You said what you said now? You gotta explain that, man. That sounds.
If you go research Nibiru or Rilo 7 or Planet X, Planet Nemesis, all these is different names for the same event. All I'm gonna tell you that in the tail behind this Death Star, there's also another name for it. It's made of iron oxide or rust. When it's coming into our solar system or into our atmosphere, I should say, it creates a dust cloud in the atmosphere. At first, in some places, the sky will turn purple. Some places it'll turn pink. In some places, it's going to be a crimson red, like in California or somewhere in Europe last week, on all these places turning red. That's not no coincidence. It's been raining the debris caught in what we call pebble storms. Pebble storms is when rocks fall out with the rain. All that is the debris that comes with the close of the age from planet Nibiru.
Wow. Yeah. Are they still running CERN? And if so, did they crack the firmament?
They're not allowed to operate CERN, even though it's still functional. They're not allowed to operate it until the new system come online, because the last time is how they blew the fourth dimension into the third dimension and fucked the game up, basically breaking the video game. So now we got to figure out how to fix the game while we live through the game.
You told
that's
me
also part of, that's part of the Anunnaki conjure.
Right. The Anunnaki did that. They messed up the fourth. They merged the fourth and third dimension, you saying?
Yeah, that's why we need sleep, because we got to operate in 2 dimensions at the same time. So we got to split our consciousness between the dream state, 4th dimensional mind matrix, in the physical realm, three-dimensional physical matrix, fixed position reality. This is what all the platonic solids is telling you. It's telling you how to make mandalas in order to untrap your mind.
Right.
But we don't know that because we didn't study that stuff, because they used to teach us that to hide it from us, they was putting it in books. That just made me read more.
Somebody, Khalifa wants to know: are we supposed to be patriarch or monarch as a people?
Those are the same thing. A monarch is a king. A patriarch is a male leader. Patriarchs exist inside a matriarchy. Patriarchs are the stand-up guys that the women say, I can't keep him to myself. I have to go out and get some more sisters. Right. So the matriarchy is around children, childbearing, and producing good seeds. Patriarchy is about control, domination, and warfare, rulership, leadership. And in order for patriarchy to ever be functional, it had to work hand in glove with matriarchy. And that's the father being the father and the mother being the mother. And the mother being the one who operates in the heart of the home, being the kitchen. She operate there, but she ain't the only one in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the guys cook too, right? But we assign assignments to the family on who's most competent to perform the function. The elders used to say it like this: the one who knows the path leads the way.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start putting it all back together, the culture is in our face, but it's fragmented because we was miseducated on purpose. It's not accident.
I don't know if I understand this question. Young Hardin wants to know: what about the toxic matriarch figure? Is it time for the cycle to close? Do you understand that? What he's
Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. So what we call a toxic matriarch is, well, also known as the rogue mother. And she's in her Sekhmet or Kali Ma energy. It's the raging mother trying to protect her cubs. And the reason she like that, because she see the war, but she don't know what she's looking at. So she's always in war mode. Now we have to get the women out of war mode back to love mode in order to shift the war story to a love story. This is the bottom line of the Conjure War. That's the final hurrah, when the women realize that they can be women, because somebody gonna make sure that the boys learn how to be men.
mm-hmm. All right. Somebody wants to know your thoughts on Russia influence in Africa.
It's the other way around. See, Africa is reclaiming Africa. The clans of the organic clans of the African continent is systematically taking over every single country one at a time and reclaiming what's called the organic and natural birthright. Just beyond any other names that they're using to separate and segregate them, those what we call exonyms, the name the enemy gave you when he came. If you let him tell you who you is, you belong to him. If you identify yourself with who you are, you belong to you, and you can do something about the other people that's similarly situated that don't know no better. But you can't do nothing about it if you don't know you at war. And it's a culture war.
Will there be a World War III in 2024?
We already fought World War III. We in World War IV right now. The World War III was called the Cold War. World War IV is the war for technology, innovation, and the fight for right on Earth. And that's the war we're fighting right now. It's World War IV.
Okay, let's get to another one. Do Rod Hayes do any type of consultations?
Yeah, message me on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
Um, the sick ape at the sick ape.
How you spell it?
THESIKAPE,
Okay.
which is the
Uh,
acronym to help everyone. Soldiers and Illuminati are present everywhere. Cool acronym, ain't
yeah. So, Des wants to know, how does that work when some women want to be man and some men want to be woman?
Okay, first of all, you got to realize that women that you believe want to be men, they don't want to be men. They want a man. And the men who want to be women was raised that way by a military contingent philosophy. We call it the gay agenda, and they was deliberately taught that by people that wanted to subjugate us. Child molestation is part of Babylonian sex magic. Sexual conversion to alternate gender identity is Babylonian sex magic.
Mhm. Okay. Question: Rod Hayes, what and when the extraterrestrial will show themselves to the public?
You be seeing them all the time, but you think they regular people. And some of them you just think ugly as hell and they regular people. And some of them you think exceptionally gorgeous, but they regular people. But they all aliens. All extraterrestrials don't look like that comic book ass shit they be telling y'all. Don't fall for that. You gonna know them by the frequency and not by them telepathically talking to you. If you tuned in to self, you'll recognize them on sight. They here all over the place.
Wolfgang wants to know, is one of the three kings in Tennessee?
Right now, they could be anywhere because they what you call underground. But they will have to be made known to the public. That's the rules of the land.
Where's this question at? Somebody's asking, are the ancestors back on Earth plane?
You, your ancestors. If you here, your ancestors here. You they representative. Just like them being here is you being here. Look, your DNA is it's a microcomputer processor. The codons on your DNA ties to frequencies in order for you to tune in to what is written in the code. There's a series of binary numbers that's on your DNA. That's called communicating with the ancestors. That's why communicating with them brings you higher awareness of self, which gives you more control of the environment around you.
Michelle wants to know, will the grid go down?
I don't know, it's gonna officially go down, but I don't know if it's gonna truly go down. But we're gonna have to, when this shift happens, when the organic earthborn reclaim Earth and it's finally done, everything go dark around the planet. And it could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 days. That's what they call the Great Reset, just like they shut us down for COVID.
Makita, I hope I'm saying your name right, wants to know, what is up with Sedona, Arizona? Why are so many non-colored people attracted to that place and not so many colored folk?
The only reason that not so many of the melanated are drawn to Sedona, one is the Pleiadians do a lot of work with what we call the pale face. They got a special affection for them, and they do a lot of work out of Sedona. But most of us don't go because we didn't went down there so many lifetimes. We don't give a fuck if we get there or not. We done already did that. That's all old practice. That's ancient practice. But you got a new family member that needed a chance to rule and a chance to ascend. And now there's those beings making it possible. It's all part of the game.
Rod, why does Palladians have such a special relationship with who we call white folk?
Because a lot of they what we call soul matrix comes from Pleiadian light. As the final two daughters of Isis, Scott and Scotia. And the Isis energy traces back to the Pleiades as well. And the Pleiadians' light lock is what kept the war on Earth outside from spilling outside of Earth. This is what and it's backed up by an Arcturian support system. All these are energy work. All of this is sorcery and conjure and magic and science. Actually, the science is the magic.
Mm-hmm. So would it be, Rod, would it be beneficial for melanated folks to go to Arizona? Or is it like,
look,
it's overrated? Is it overrated or,
Nah. We go to those spiritual places when Mother Earth tell us to move. When you don't see us going there, she got us looking in a different direction. They can use that. It's going to come a time where a lot of melanated people are going to be drawn to Sedona. Like she's asking the question now. That means there's a curiosity brewing in the community. Others of us want to know. It's a lot of us still go down there. Don't get it twisted. But it's just that a lot of work is being done with the most recent evolved human species of the planet. In order to get them their right to ascend, they had to assimilate their one drop of blood. So now they're going for their spiritual tuning sessions to make sure that they can function in the fifth dimensional matrix and the solar cycle. Because the sun ain't going to be friendly just because they got the right to ascend. It's going to be brutal until they adjust.
It's quite interesting. That's a whole nother show. Quite interesting. Yeah. Okay. This is something that's said a lot now. Where is it at? Chat moving so fast. Is it true the sea is space and space in the sky is the sea?
You ain't never heard as above, so below? It means exactly what it say, as above, so below. When we talk about coming into creation from the primordial abyss is a depth of water, but it's not physical water of the earth. It's the primordial noon, the great waters of creation, which is the fluids that run through the womb of the great mother who we rest creation in as we develop as the gods. It's all Egyptian conceptual physics told in story fashion as the story of the gods. Those are all conceptual physics stories that tell you how to read the stars, that tell you how to translate it on Earth and what do it mean when you translate it.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Somebody said, okay. Is the sky blue because of the blue sun?
That's a double oxygen molecule called ozone that make the sky appear to be blue. It's the oxygen molecule that produces a blue pigment, a baby blue pigment.
All right. Will social media ever come to an end?
I don't know, but I hope my social media days come to a motherfucking end because I'm sick of this shit.
Oh man. All right, let's keep it moving. Um, okay. Why are a lot of melanated people moving to the southern states, particularly from California?
Um, I don't know about particularly from California, but I do know Mississippian culture says that when the energy shift, everybody go back to Big Mama house. For Mississippians, that means the land that we call today Louisiana, Arkansas, and Georgia, Florida. That's called the Big Mama land. We be called the land of the flowers. Florida used to stretch all the way to Texas. But when during the war, the English settled Georgia to separate the clans from merging together and to push the slave narrative to culturally assassinate us as a people. Because they want to take our culture from us so we can't read how to recover our birthrights to the land.
So you saying Florida was once, what states was once Florida? So we could really understand what you're saying.
When you come out of Florida and you go west, you're going to go Georgia, you're going to go to Arkansas, you're going to hit Mississippi, Alabama, not in that order. And no, yeah, in that order. And then you're going to hit Texas. Portions of the border where Texas and Louisiana meet is rigid because of the skirmishes and the setting up of the demarcation lines by the settlers. But the tribes use major monuments as the landmarks. And then we broke the land up into controllable sections for clans to settle on. And these are the ones that they caught traveling to fight in the Gullah Wars. Mm-hmm.
So I got a map, right? So we got Florida.
Mm-hmm.
From Florida, you hit Georgia, you hit Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Houston.
Houston is in Texas.
Right. Okay, so after Louisiana, then we got Texas.
Right. Right up in there where your cursor at is the end of the land of flowers. Now you're going into the land of dirt and stone, what we would call a desert, going into Texas.
Okay.
Right. And the land of dirt and stone goes all the way up into what we call today everything that was annexed from Mexico in the Mexico-American War.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we was going, the battleground was in the panhandle of Florida, all the way down into southern Florida. This is where we was fighting the Gullah Wars at. When we was coming from all over the land, Lewis and Clark backdoored us, and because the castles they saw was didn't have nobody there but caretakers, they declared there was no royalty over here. And that's how they was able to expand across the Louisiana territory as a furtherance of the crash spot called the Plymouth. Remember, Malcolm said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Right? Because they used that as the cause for admiralty jurisdiction to usurp the people of the land. Chief Warhorse can tell you better than me how this go. She got all the receipts, the old maps and all that. Once you find out where at your people trace to, you're going to know what tribe you from. It ain't going to be no secret no more.
Right. And what role was Mexico playing in this time period, 1492, around that time when all this was taking place?
Okay, so Mexico was fighting the Spanish. All of the tribes of Mexico is drawn into, you see that little peninsula right there by your cursor to the lower left? Oh, no. Go back over to your left, right here in that area.
Yeah.
They confronting the Spanish there on that part of the Mexican continent. So now tribes is migrating all the way from Alaska south to fight the Spaniards.
Mm. Mm.
This was to send support to the islands, Jamaica, Cuba, Dominica, all of these islands, Cuba, that you see down there, they were all being mercilessly attacked by the Spanish Armada. The Spanish Armada eventually was backed up by the French and the Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
So we was boat jumping from this portion of Mexico going to support the islands. And that's why you see the islanders with varying different tribal makeups, because we had to go help them. This is where we had our resorts, right? So Big Mama's on the mainland would trade delicacies with the people from the islands. We would always visit. They cut us off from each other by controlling the water. They took control of the seas first, around the borderlands. Once they took control of the seas, they started first annexing the islands and claiming the islands as the territory under the doctrine of discovery. When they started getting pummeled, they sent the voyage around South America. And that's how the Califia Queens, caught without her kings, got assaulted and her castle got pummeled by the Spanish Armada. And then we didn't know what hit us.
Damn. So you ever seen the movie Pirates of the Caribbean?
That's about the Spanish. Puerto Rico was set up as a port city, and it was where all of the thieves kept their wealth. That's why it's called the rich port, because all of the wealth that they was stealing from the tribes, they had to take it to Puerto Rico to be inventoried before they ship it to Europe. And the pirates, honor among thieves, that's why they set up cannons all around Puerto Rico for defensive measure.
Okay. And we have South America here.
Yeah. So Brazil, being the first to assimilate the pale nations of Europe and make them become a distinctly different people than they was when they came. So we got a term called Brazilianization, which is a reflection of the Blood Doctrine being assimilated with the least amount of resistance from the nomadic peoples, or the organic peoples, I should say. And that's why the Brazilians look different than the rest of the tribe, because they've assimilated.
Okay. I think I asked you this before with the, we're going through like a real dope history lesson, y'all. There was a book when rocks cry out, and I believe he said that Jerusalem was the real Jerusalem was in Peru. You ever heard that before?
Look, Jerusalem is made up to push the Hebrew doctrine on us. Jerusalem only means city of peace. Wherever you've seen the metropolis at was a Jerusalem, a city of peace. They just trying to make it seem like it's some uniquely special shit. And if you go back to 1945, when they established the United Nations, 1948 is when they finally did their first act as a concerted United Nations, when they seized that land on the Gaza Bank and the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. But in the meeting between 45 and 48, they had 10 different locations that they was going to declare to be the state of Israel, right? With the city of Jerusalem as its capital. They settled on the city over there in the Middle East because they have ancient practices right, built on top of ancient practices, all in that area, and then they can use that as the justification for the false narrative of religious doctrine. That don't work on me. So
All right.
what they're telling you when they talk about a city peace is any city that wasn't in a state of war, because all of our cities is currently in a state of war. And we know this because all our cities have some stuff called police, which is slave catchers that worked for the empire. That ain't turning our empire. And they were the ones catching the braves and taking them as hostages to prevent them becoming chiefs.
Right. Yeah, we got Antarctica over here, huh? This is the
Yeah.
this is what everybody talk about, Antarctica. Okay. Rod, is there any ancient texts that deal with Antarctica or the land over there?
Yep. The Hindus have a series of writings on the landmass, but under the ice, it would be Tartaria. It's actually called Tartarus in the Bible. In the book of Enoch, it's called Tartarus, and the book of Enoch gives you the terrain that's exactly the terrain under the ice, and it tell you it's the coldest desert in the world.
Right. Wow. Wow. Just going over some land here. Wow. Okay. We got Asia, we got Russia.
So
Yeah.
what you're looking at now, you're looking at it from what we would call an Anunnaki eye. Do you see where the separation is between so-called Africa and the Middle East?
You breaking up, Rod. You talking about here? You said
that part right there.
Yeah.
Everything east of that, except for was Pakistan and India. Pakistan and India used to be called East Ethiopia. And Ethiopia means ether utopian. It goes back to something called Black root science.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to some documents. So this was the land of Enki.
Ethiopia.
Right?
All of this.
Those
here.
big. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everything north of India, Europe, and Asia is the land, and Australia, and it goes down to the Far East to Australia. That was all ISIS's territory or Inanna's territory by the division of the three Anunnakis of the earth. Then you had the Americas, which was the land of Tahuti, the great thunderbird, Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, right? But when you start reading all the documents and you find out, you know, the story of the Arabs say, I thought crashed and flew east and landed in the land of the hairy barbarian. He's talking about the original inhabitants set up Egypt. So when you zoom in, you will see that Nile River is an artificial construct. It's not original over there, right? It was once the source of the fertile nature of what's now called the Sahara Desert. But they engineered the Nile River to not run into the desert because they had to fill in the Mediterranean bit bigger because of Mount Vesuvius.
Right. Man. Yeah, this is that was interesting right there.
Yeah, I wasn't intending to go into no history lesson around the world.
Wow, man. That was yeah, and the thing about it, Rod, is that the maps, we don't even know how accurate the maps we got are. Like,
Do a layover with the moon. They do a layover with the moon because the moon is reflecting the map of the Earth.
Oh, the
The
moon? Yeah.
moon is the tech. Yeah, so the moon is supposed to be able to be used to tell you if it's sunken lands. The sunken lands show up in the moon. They got the oldest reflection of the Earth. It's seared in there for a reason.
Wow. Wow. We're gonna get to two more questions, then we're gonna get out of here. Let's get to a super chat question. Hold up. Well, let me get to this one. What Rod? I think she's trying to say, what does Rod think about suicide?
Suicide resets you in the game, take you back till you can figure out why you keep abandoning your post. So, what actually the reason people commit suicide is part of the shut off matrix in the game. The game is designed that if you can't handle the pressure, that it ejects you from the game. And so you have to leave a clue behind for somebody to know that there was an issue here that needed to be studied so that we can find out how to exist longer within the parameters of the game. Most of us don't know. Nobody don't ever tell us when we little. We know as you grow up, life's supposed to have ups and downs. Sometimes this shit supposed to get so hard you don't even want to be here no more. But you're supposed to work your way through it, and that's when the better days come.
Mm.
But it comes from from not teaching people that life's supposed to get difficult, because the difficult times is the test for all of the easy times that you had before it. You were studying.
Right.
When you turn into a university, it hit different.
Mm. All right, let's get to the next question. Rod, can you explain how to reclaim family land if the corporation is defunct? Are land deeds contracts null and void?
The only thing they're going to be good for is what you call a trace record. The trace record is because, remember, the contract was canceled because they never honored the treaty. All of the treaties was all made up and predicated up on fraud, a constructed fraud. The constructed fraud was they declared $5 Indians chiefs and signed treaties as if they was with us. And when we seen in the South, a lot of us got trapped into what we call blind treaty agreements by not knowing the what we call the Queen's language, and not knowing the legalese, and not knowing that they're not the same. So a lot of them got trapped into signing treaties that they knew didn't have a fucking clue what they were signing, which was fraud. So when all of the contracts is canceled, when everything shut down and come back online, it'll be a path clearly to find out where your family's shit at. Because the corporation is defunct. It's a wrap.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna do one more question, y'all. Then we're gonna get out of here. One more question, then we're gonna get out of it. Yeah, shout out yeah wants to know why are old hold up. Why are old diseases like leprosy and scarlet fever returning?
Because they ain't never went nowhere. They just changed the names of them. And leprosy was a term for 90% of illnesses a long time ago. But now illnesses has been classified in smaller and smaller groups because they find it in different causes. Over time, we think that leprosy is gone. No, leprosy is still here under different names. Same as scarlet fever. And then they calling it the flu and all these viruses and shit. It's the same shit. It's killing people the same way, and it's all manufactured in laboratories. And they spray it when they choose to.
Mm-hmm. All right, this is gonna be the last one. This is officially the last one. Brother Rod, can you explain the torus field? The torus field. We're gonna end it like
okay, so when you got two polarities to a magnet, it creates a field. If it's laying flat, the field looks like the top of an apple, and it goes around, and the bottom of it looks the same. This is called a torus field or a torsion field. It's because of the pole in the center is it's projecting the field. Everything got a field. In the earth, it's called the atmosphere, but in the person, it's called an aura. And they are made in the torsion field. The heart chakra is in line with the crown chakra in order to produce a torsion field that's much bigger than the torsion field of your heart chakra being in alignment with your root chakra. When you have all of them in alignment, it makes your torsion field even bigger. So your toric field much is 60 feet around you. And when you wake fully into consciousness and your mitochondrial is putting out maximum output, which means that you're getting maximum information from the DEA, then you can reach up to 50 miles with your auric field. And this is why we are connected.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, with that being said, man, Rod, I want to thank you once again for coming back on the channel, representing, holding it down, giving out this information on the Conjure Wars like only you can do. Leave your information one more time before you get out of here, my brother.
Y'all catch me on Instagram at the Sick Ape. That's at THESIKAPE. You can Hayes on Facebook. I do be on Instagram, but right now I have nothing scheduled. I might do a class with Young Elder. I haven't made it up yet.
Okay. Yeah, definitely keep us updated with that. With that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This Brother Rich, Rod Hayes. We signing out, family. Peace. See you next time.
Peace, God.
All right. Peace, my brother. All right.